Keith Grinke from Top Main News here with a man who hasn't fought in close to a decade, Curtis Brigham. Curtis, thanks for the interview.
Absolutely.
It's been since 2004. We haven't seen you fight. We've seen you managing, coaching, here at WAMA. Why are you coming back now?
You know what? I'm feeling pretty good, and I figure I just turned 31, and if I'm ever going to do it, now's the time, I figure. And I never actually retired. I never said I retired anyway. I just took a bit of a hiatus. I left the gym I was training at, opened my own gym, and just didn't have any training partners. In the dying days of my fight career, if you can call it that, I was not making very much money, and then having some tough fights with no training partners, and just decided I wasn't ready for it. So I built WAMA kind of in the beginning just to have training partners, and now I've got no excuses because the guys are better than me in every angle, every direction. There's guys who can push me really hard. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
What excuse do I have?
Yeah, and going back to 1999, as your first MMA fight.
Yeah.
What was it like, going to that first fight? You're predominantly a jiu-jitsu fighter at the time. What was MMA like back then? And talk us through that first fight.
The old days. I was 17, and I'd never even been to a fight before. I'd never even seen fights, live before, and I had no idea. It was pretty amateur. I had to pay $50 to enter, and there was 4 guys around my weight, so it was a 4-man tournament, and they just drew out of a hat who's fighting who. There was no internet you could go check to see who's at the weigh-ins you figure out who you're fighting, and that's it.
But what weight was it at?
Mine was at 150. That was the divisions, I think, for that day were 150, 175, and 205. I think. I know. Actually, that tournament, it was August 13th, 1999. I won the 150-pound one. Lee Fortin, who's actually a brown belt affiliate of ours in the PA, won his match at 175, I think it was, and Joe Dirksen was there for the 205, but nobody showed up to fight him. And
where was the tournament?
That was in Minneapolis.
Well, that's great.
Actually, that's the first time I saw Sean Shirk fight.
Yeah.
He fought. It was an amateur fight. He took down a kickboxer and American locked him. Yeah. I remember thinking, he's not all that good.
Not all that good. And of course, you went on to fight UFC guys like CJ Fernandez and Sean Shirk.
Yeah.
Talk about that fight.
Which one? They're both.
They're both the Shirk.
Shirk, I thought I could tap him. I really did, and I was down. I was staying with a friend of mine in Omaha, and I found out they needed an opponent for Sean Shirk. He was 2 weeks away, and I'd wanted to fight him for years. And since I'd seen him fight that first day I fought, and. 2 weeks later, I was in Minneapolis in his hometown, and he lay a beating on me. He was fast and strong, and at the time he was fighting 170, which I know is stupid. So we didn't even actually have a weigh-in for it. There was no official weigh-in. I can't get above 155, and I should have made him cut to 70, but what can you say, right? Lessons learned.
Was that a big part of stepping away from it? You're right now you're 150. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You're going to be fighting at 140. Was that a big part of stepping away from MMA as a fighter?
Maybe. I think I had some. It's probably some bad experiences you could call it. Really, CJ Fernandez was a good example of it was 24 hours notice. I brought some amateurs out to fight, and it just turned out it was a 4-man tournament for a belt, and they needed the 3 guys dropped out of the tournament, and only 1 guy was left in it. So I'm in town anyway, Minneapolis again, and so I stepped in and got a pretty big cut on my head and knocked pretty silly by. It was a pretty dumb fight. I think I've made some. There's some lessons I've learned that I've hopefully kept my guys from learning the hard way.
Yeah, you certainly had your share of wins. You're 10-5, maybe you're 13-5. Any idea what your record is at this point?
I guess it depends what you consider pro and amateur and stuff. At the time, the database is the Full Contact Fighter database. Used to have a pretty good spread of amateur and pro. I think they're gone now. And Dogs, picked up some, lost others. It's to be honest, I don't know. I guess depends how you classify them.
And aside from being really a pioneer of MMA, in Manitoba, Canada, North America, you raised up a crew of guys here at WAMA. You've trained, as many people know, Rolly DeLorme, who's now in the UFC.
Yeah.
Many people don't know that, Josh Neer gives you a lot of credit for his sub game. So how did you come to be, training a guy like Josh Neer?
I fought in Iowa a fair bit, in Nebraska, and the promoter I fought for sort of had found Josh, and it's where he had, Josh had, almost 100 amateur fights, and when I met him, and he was starting to turn pro, and was a tough guy and good wrestling, and a solid guy, hard fighter, and but needed a sub game. So the promoter sent him, said you have to go stay with the Canadians, learn how to do some jiu-jitsu. So he came up here and lived up here for a month and a half ish, and we did privates basically every day, just learning. He was supposed to be fighting Sean Shirk actually, so I already fought Shirk, and just the way it worked, we worked a whole game of give him some bottom game, right, which is where he really needed it. And he didn't end up fighting Shirk at the time, but he went on to actually have some wins off his back. He actually had a fair bit of some arm bars and triangle and Melvin Guillard, stuff like that. Some great fights.
Yeah, absolutely. No, back to yourself. So you wanted to come back. We've heard you were going to come back a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor's always been out there. Now you bought your own location for WAMA.
Yeah.
You're tearing it apart right now. We're here. You've had a baby.
Yeah.
So why do it in the middle of all that?
Man, I don't know.
It's been like 9 years.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours. You know what? Darren Owen, the guys at AFC, they're awesome. They're easy to deal with. I never made less than 145 for a fight, and people tell me I'm 135er, but I struggled to make 45 years ago. So I figured if I could find a 140 catch weight and they offer the right money, and I've never been against fighting. I just so anyway they put it together, made it work, and what can I say? It's busy, but we're opening the new gym. WAMA's moving, so it's a good time for advertising. 222 St. Mary's, right across from the Red Top. We're opening October 1st here. Moving into a
absolutely fantastic
bigger, more
gym.
permanent, location.
Yeah. So now your opponent, Matt Trudeau, he's 2-0.
Yeah.
Probably was like 10 years old when you were fighting in Japan.
Then again, there's guys who are 10 years younger than me at my gym who can give me fits. So I don't want to judge off of that. But go ahead. Yeah.
So what do you know about him? You're facing him on September 15th here in Winnipeg. What do you know about Matt Trudeau?
I know he's I was told he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Supposed to be a pretty strong guy. You know what? I don't know much else. I'm sure he's pretty good at everything. I'm sure he's gonna be a tough fight. The whole world's evolved since I was fighting. I'm a bit. Like I said, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, when...
31-year-old dinosaur, come on.
Well, but game-wise, like things were so different then, that I knew jiu-jitsu, and a lot of my, through my first, 10, 12 fights, a lot of people didn't really know jiu-jitsu, so it was almost like cheating. I could submit people with things they'd never seen before, and not that I was particularly tough or even all that good at it, but, I got a head start, that's all.
But how has your game evolved? In the past 8 or 9 years, the striking, the mixing of the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Has Curtis Brigham's game evolved as the?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've just even as being a training partner, I've spent. I feel so much more comfortable for fights now in that not only do I have all these great training partners and like guys who can push me in every direction, but I've been there so many times. I've cornered hundreds of fights. Probably, I'm sure hundreds of fights since my last fight. I've been to so many events and been with guys on so many weight cuts, and the whole thing is, I might not have fought for a long time. There might be some ring rust in there, who knows? But I feel mentally like I haven't been away from it.
No, absolutely. You mentioned cornering. I've sat ringside at hundreds of events, and definitely one of the best corners I've heard is Curtis Brigham yelling to his fighters. Very vocal, very knowledgeable, and your guys actually seem to listen. Not Eric Perez, but
I yell at Eric all the time. Keep your hands down and punch, and he does it. Yeah, it's great.
So, who's your head trainer? Who's your corner for this fight?
Oh, it's a tough call. As far as trainer, I wouldn't say I can give anybody the title, but every pro at the gym helps out. WAM is great. That if I'm the head coach, it's partly because I rent the space. It's partly because I sort of organized it. But we've got so many guys that contribute so much to it. And as far as cornering, I know for sure a friend of mine, Corey Coles, is flying in from Calgary for me. He was. I met him when I was 16 or something, and he cornered me for probably 10, 12, 13 of my fights. He was there at the drop of a hat when people were like, "We'll drive down to Iowa to corner you, watch your fight," and then they'd all back out. Corey would be there, on a moment's notice. So just for traditional reasons, I owe it to him. He was there for me so long. I wouldn't feel right fighting with him without him in my corner. And beyond that, I've got so many guys to choose from. I'm the last guy from Whamma fighting that night. I'm co-main, so
Oh wow.
I've got a whole lot of guys of good guys that I love like family to pick. I'm not sure how it's gonna go yet.
And these other guys, Dominic Blaze, Jared Milko, Marius. I don't know.
Jared Milko is very new to our gym. He's only been he moved here his last week, I guess.
Yeah.
But awesome guy. I kind of wish I wasn't fighting just so I could. I kind of wish I wasn't cornering too, just so I could watch the fights. There's some awesome matches between Joe Dirks and Caleb Starnes and Milko and Steele. Awesome fight. It's a wonderful card.
Yeah, Lewis Fazette, another one. So what are these guys going to do for corners while their coach is busy getting ready?
Depends on the lineup, but I mean, man, it hurts not to corner people. Like I've taken pride in trying to be at every single fight. I'll drive to Estevan. We've driven to Calgary and Lethbridge, and I make a point of being there. I missed Eric's last fight because my baby was born the day before, but it's gonna be hard not cornering. But I think I'm gonna have to step down, and we've got lots of guys from our amateur team to some of the pros who aren't fighting. Between Roland and Dave McMillan, who's actually moved away, but he's driving back in for that night to help corner and help get our guys ready. We should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a lengthy interview here. I just got to say, the most exciting fight that I'm looking for on the 15th, definitely Curtis Brigham's return. Very long awaited. I'd like to thank you for your time. Everybody wants to get some great training. 222 St. Mary's here in Winnipeg.
Whamma.ca.
And thank you for your time, Curtis.
Thank you very much.